you're now the king of the tomahawk shot. We played that match over in Kansas City, and I shanked a few completely miserably,
Yeah,
and you hit like 3 or 4 winners hitting
I
that
know.
shot.
Well, I
So
think
I'd say
you did 4 or 5 out. It was really nice of you to hit those out. Let's
it was
have
an
a
off
fun
day
story
for the
real quick.
tomahawk.
Yeah, I was warming up with Krista on these courts, and it was I genuinely didn't know you were standing right there. And so when you were standing next to us, and I'm like, Krista, like, let me hit you a couple 2-handed backhands. Zane's gonna attack you like this, and Krista's over here like doing this thing, like, hey, Zane's right there, and I didn't know what she was doing. I was like, just prepare for the counter. I was
Like
like,
after
I made a joke, and I was like, oh, like Zane's gonna do this, right, or something like that, and then. Just because we talked about it, I remember then the match started, and I think in game one I hit a tomahawk on you, which I haven't hit in like 4 weeks, and now I've been doing it all the time again since that moment. So you basically re-sparked my tomahawk abilities. But yeah, in the game.
that's where I came into that conversation too. Like I think that's where I saw you
Okay,
said like Zane's gonna do this.
yeah,
So
I
I
like my
didn't know
shot.
I didn't know you guys were talking about me.
No, we said some other things too, but yeah, no, yeah,
I can only imagine. My main reasoning is that when your hand is in front of your paddle, right, you're not going to have as much reach if you turn it over and your hand is behind the paddle. So if nothing else, the
yeah,
tomahawk or the reverse forehand gives you 3, 4, 5 inches of extra reach,
yeah.
and yeah, those
Okay, I have one
every
other.
inch matters, Kyle.
That's right. And speaking of very interesting, Anna Bright.
All right. All right. Welcome to the Pickle Pod, everybody. We are virtual this episode, and we've got that pickleball guy, Kyle Kazuda. Kyle, thanks for coming on the pod.
Thanks. I prefer if you only spoke to me or referred to me as that pickleball guy the whole time.
Done, Mr. Guy.
Yeah, I'm excited
Well,
to be
you were
here.
just telling me that you got a good text message.
Okay, this is
What is this?
yeah. So I got a text yesterday. I think you'll get a kick out of this because you guys talk about this guy. Let me actually see if you can guess who this text was from. I got
Ooh,
a text from a random person that you enjoy this person. You talked
Chris
don't say
Olsen.
don't, oh no, you don't enjoy him. And and you've talked about him on this pod before. I think you've played alongside him multiple times. But the text said, "Call me, thanks." Period, and then his name. I actually didn't have his number saved, and so it said, "Call me, thanks." Then his name. Who was the text from?
Ooh.
Let me.
This
Okay.
has got to be
Yeah,
Altoff.
it's all time.
This has got to be Altoff.
We've never texted before. I don't know if you can see this, but it says "Call me, thanks, Altoff." I got this at 5:37 p.m. I responded at 9 p.m. and just said tomorrow, and he said great. I still haven't called him yet. I'm nervous.
Unbelievable. Well, I mean, there's no time like the present. Why don't we give Altoff a
Should I
call?
call him real quick?
Let's see.
Let's see if he picks up. Altoff, what's up? It's Kyle. Hey, should I tell him Zane?
Probably.
Altoff, I'm in the pickle pod right now with Zane, and he told me I needed to call you ASAP and see what this was about publicly.
Hey, Altoff.
Hey, by the way, Carl, so 2 weeks ago in Vegas, I just showed Zane what a gold medal looks like at the DPA, and his eyes lit up. So I thought maybe he would show up in the finals and bring home a gold, but it didn't happen. But I do have 27 of those, so I will mail him one for Christmas.
Yeah, and what's the ratio? What's the exchange rate of senior gold medals to regular gold medals?
Zane, let me tell you something. I took Sincola to the U.S. Open podium. I have a lifetime higher DUPR than you ever have. You can win 25 MLP saying it doesn't matter. I took Sincola to a finals in doubles. That's it. End of story.
I see no lies. I see no lies there.
Hey, Kyle, Zane is speechless. He doesn't know what to say because he knows. He knows that I did something that no man has ever done before.
No, I actually just muted Zane. That's why he wasn't talking. Do you Altoff? I'll give you a call later, or we can just actually have our full conversation on this podcast right now if we want. Or maybe we
No,
should.
I just got some friends going to Scottsdale next week for vacation, and I was like, you know what? They were like, they're like 4 rows, and they want to talk double strategy and take lessons, and I don't do lessons, and so I was like, I know a guy that lives there, but if he's available, he'll give you a fantastic lesson, and that's why I reached out to you.
Well, thanks, Altoff. Yeah, let me shoot you a text later this evening, and we could talk more about it.
Don't forget, by the way, the security guard at the Orchid was not available. That's why I called you.
Okay. Sounds good. I'll talk to you later.
All right, man. You guys have fun.
All right, bye.
Bye, Altoff.
All right, there had to be
Well,
some.
that was great.
There had to be
That
something
was a
useful.
phenomenal unexpected. I was expecting to get roasted in some capacity or another from either you or him, but yeah, we got both. Perfect.
Yeah. That's,
Well, Kyle, I think most people at this point know you from the YouTube channel, That
yeah.
Pickleball Guy. Like I knew you originally. I think I first started seeing you when you were one of the original Tyson McGuffin, or if not the original Tyson McGuffin impersonator. Like, how did you sort of get into and identify pickleball as a sport that you wanted to just create content in?
Yeah, I was working this other job at a basketball camp company. It's called PGC Basketball. So I worked there. I went to the camp when I was in high school, and then I was working there for about 5 years. And during COVID, we did in-person basketball camps, and then COVID hit, and we did over 100 camps. All the camps got canceled, and so basically, for the company not to die during COVID, we had to create online content. So I basically, with a couple other people, started learning how to film and edit, and I did it for like 12 hours a day for like 6 months straight, just creating all this basketball content. And then friend of a friend was like, "Hey, you should play pickleball." Played pickleball for the first time, and when after about 3 months of playing, like everybody, I got hooked. I was obsessed with it. I was going to the parks every day. I saw Pace Tioni out there one time, local legend at this one park in Phoenix. And then like I heard these guys play tournaments, and then I got invited to like this backyard game. And then about 3 months in, I was like, all right, maybe I should make a run at going pro at this thing, whatever that meant. I just like heard that there was pro pickleball, and I decided that I would just do content around it. And I didn't do YouTube at the time. I just like wrote this newsletter and I did Instagram stuff, but I just decided to document it on my newsletter and then try to make, I don't know, whatever I could think of on Instagram. And that was about almost 3 years ago. I think August 26, 2021 was the first time I played pickleball. So we're like a little over 3 years in.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, the first time I did content, I think was maybe November or December of 2021. So I've been doing it almost every day since. So that's how I got into it. That's how I got into the content, and thought, maybe I love doing content. It was fun for me. I thought maybe it could give me sponsorship down the road if I wanted to keep pursuing it, which I did, and that happened. So that's how I got into it.
Gotcha. And
Yeah.
why the username? How'd you come up with That Pickleball Guy?
That's a good question. There was a guy out like during COVID. I was just sitting around so much, and I didn't play pickleball during COVID. Just for the record, I was still working the job. Like a lot of people started during COVID, but I didn't. But there was a guy that I was following a lot on Twitter, and I was reading a lot of his like writing and marketing stuff, and he had labeled himself as the writing guy. And then I had also known about knees over toes guy for a long time. I just
Oh yeah.
seen his stuff, and so I was like, oh, that's kind of a clever thing. And so I was like the pickleball guy, that pickleball guy, and then that pickleball guy was the only thing I could get all the domains for, like Instagram, YouTube, the actual website, and so that's why I ended up going with that. And then it turned out to be good. Like now when I go out, my buddies, they'll it's kind of annoying, but it also somewhat funny. But they'll over exaggerate that and just be like, oh, it's that guy walking in. And so it's been a fun thing. I think the marketing angle of it has stuck a little bit. I feel uncomfortable when people come up and say like, oh, you're that pickleball guy a little bit. Because I prefer if they call me Mr. Guy like you did. But other than that,
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, so you've obviously grown unbelievably quickly over the period of time that you've been making content. I'm looking at I've got your channel pulled up, That Pickleball Guy. It does say Kyle Kazuda on there, so I'm just saying, if you want to just get rid of that completely, that's fine. But your videos, your top video has 1.5 million views. You've got 135,000 subscribers on YouTube, and when I look at the PPA, their top video has 800,000 views. Their subscriber count is right around 100,000. Like, why do you think your content is picking up more than even pro pickleball content? Like, what's the secret, or what's going on?
Yeah, you probably have a good take on this too for your own stuff. I just think education does better. And when I first started and I was doing stuff on Instagram, I wasn't doing anything educational because I didn't know anything about pickleball, so I wasn't going to teach something I didn't know. I didn't start doing education probably till, I don't know, 12 or 15 months in. And even then I was still like a little bit imposter syndrome. So I'm not sure how much I really know about the game. But once I started doing educational on Instagram, for example, I grew really fast at that point. Like at one point, I remember this, I was in, like my followership on Instagram was at 3,000 or 4,000. And then I put out this 10 video series and it went to like 7,000 in 10 days. And then I did another, I was like, oh, this is good. And then I did another like 18 video series, and it grew like 27,000 in 18 days. It just like hooked, and it grew like crazy. So that was telling to me for educational stuff. And I think why does it have more? If you do good educational, probably in any industry, that's probably what's going to sell because people are trying to get better at something, that's what they're going to search for more than like a funny video, unless you're hilarious. Like those Friday Pickleball guys, I love their stuff. Those guys are freaking hilarious. So their stuff actually like performs really well, but they're like, the one guy, Jake, is a professional comedian, so that's a little bit different than trying to be funny.
That helps.
Yeah.
That helps.
I think that's probably the main reason. And then, obviously just doing education doesn't grow it, but I think I love doing it, and I have a really good team that helps me with it, and I have really some amazing editors that help make the videos great. So all those things combined, and then just learning a little bit more every day along the way has helped that probably grow over time. So that's probably why it's grown a good deal.
Yeah, interesting. So, I mean, like, I think as people get more educated about the actual game and start to get themselves to a level of competence as they play, I think that's when they end up moving up the funnel into watching some of the pro pickleball type of stuff. But, you're obviously somebody who identifies what people want to see in the market, right? Or what people want to learn about. You have a finger on the pulse of what pickleball players want to see and learn about. If you had any changes that you're going to make to professional pickleball, whether that's just the way that things are packaged, whether it's the way that, what type of content is made, or whether it's actual changes to the rules of the sport, what do you think we have to do to actually make pro pickleball beat your subscriber count, right? How do we make pro pickleball the most viewed thing that people are consuming in pickleball?
Yeah, I mean, first off, you have the best articulations on this. I listen to the stuff you share. I think you articulate some of your opinions on this really well. I don't know. I actually think that a lot of times the broadcasts are good in a lot of ways. People are like, we got to get different camera angles. I feel like we've actually put a lot of different camera angles out there. I don't necessarily think that's like the way to get, we're trying every
I feel like there's a finite amount of camera angles.
Everyone's like, the camera angles aren't nuts. Like, we have enough camera angles. I don't necessarily think it's that. And then I remember when, who's the Hard Eights owner?
Tim Parks.
Rick Chan. Yeah, when Tim came on your pod, and he gave the best breakdown I've ever heard of how
don't inflate his ego like that.
You didn't let me finish.
JB, cut that out. Okay, all right, I'll let you finish.
No, but at least he reshared about the other countries that have the highest participation rate in sports, and how that led to the highest viewership, I think is the way he shared it. And like, we're just not at that point yet. I think we're moving to that point, but I didn't start watching pickleball. I never went to YouTube pickleball until probably 3 or 4 months in to playing myself. I never watched for probably 6 months in. And so let's say 10 million people or whatever it is play this year. Many of them will never even turn on and watch until they get like seriously hooked, and then they become obsessed, which for it to get real big numbers, maybe it takes another 5 years. I mean, that's one angle. I'd say another angle that people are probably trying right now. Like, I watched that sprint documentary on Netflix, and it was all about the Olympic sprinters from the United States and Jamaica specifically, and I think one from Italy was featured. And I never watched sprinting except for the Olympics in my life. But after I watched sprint, I was really interested, and I was locked in on the Olympics because now we knew the stories. And I'm not the first to say that, but it is interesting. Once you know the stories behind Zane, who used to be a CPA and now runs around hitting the ball, like, that's a pretty, and there's probably some other interesting part of your life that would be interesting on screen.
No, not much.
Yeah, maybe not. I was trying to be generous.
Interesting.
Yeah.
A lot of people have made that comparison with Drive to Survive, right? Like, how many people have said, like, hey, I'm with X, Y, or Z film crew, and we're going to make the Drive to Survive of pickleball. Like, these camera people have been following us around for years at this point. Hasn't quite happened yet. But I think you're right. There's not phenomenal storytelling of who these people are. We don't even really know Ben and Anna Lee, and they're the poster children of the sport. They're probably the people that we know. Tyson's probably the person that we know the best, right? Because he shares more about his life as a dad, as a coach, as a player than anybody. But we don't really know these players.
It makes me feel like the sprint thing was interesting for me because I just watched it, so I was thinking, I'm only watching this really because I'm really interested to see if, like, this Noah Lyles guy keeps talking about how he's going to break this record. I'm like, now I know his backstory. Is he going to do it or is he not going to do it? And like, I enjoy watching sprinting, but I'm a little more invested now just because the emotional side of the storytelling. It may have been interesting to see. I mean, the Orchard, the Tuesday Night League created Breaking Pickleball, which is on Amazon Prime now, which is really cool. And they told the stories of 7 or 8 people throughout their series and got it out. And I've gotten a lot of emails, and it's not mass. I don't know yet. I don't know the numbers for sure. It's not like across the whole world. Well, it is actually probably technically for people watching all over. But I don't know if millions of people have watched it yet. But the people who have watched it a lot of times email me and just start, hey, I really resonated with that thing you said about when you were a basketball player, and now you felt like you were lost for a minute, and now you found pickleball, which is the common story, and now you've been restored in your ambition to become good at the sport. I think that's a component of it. It's probably a lot of components. It's marketing. It's, there's a lot of good things happening. I mean, here's one other thought I've had on this is I don't know, like, when do we know that it's there? Like, what's going to get more people to watch pro pickleball? Like, when they put it on national television, it seems like quite a few people watch it. Just because the YouTube stream isn't like killing it doesn't necessarily mean it's not being watched. But is there a metric that we need to hit for people to be like, yeah, this is unbelievable? I don't know the answer to that, but I don't know. I'm just in it for the next 10 years. I'm figuring if everybody keeps doing their part in some different way, it'll eventually get to a
Sure.
mass market of that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that is interesting about breaking pickleball. I would love to know what the numbers are like that. Like, and first off, did you have your email like attached to this somehow, or like contact me in there? Like, how are people getting a hold of you? Are they like Googling you?
I think what happens is I think because in there it talks about my Instagram handle, I think, or I think I talk about doing social media, so people end up getting searching me up after watching the because I'm in the first episode of it, so when they watch it, I think they go look.
Okay.
As
And they
far as
mention like, oh, I saw you in breaking pickleball.
yeah,
Oh,
exactly.
and that's
Okay,
how
that
you, okay,
was super
gotcha,
cool.
gotcha.
So I mean, in Patrick and Ashley at the Orchard, Jigsaw have done an awesome job promoting it. And that's just like one thing. I know like the PPA has been trying to do a documentary for a while, and maybe they are, and it takes time and all those things. But anyway, back to your question of like what's going to grow the sport. I just think there's probably 15 things that are going to do it. Participation is one of them. 100 more camera angles is probably another one. Creating a documentary is probably another one. People like you and me doing content on YouTube to spread the game. All those type of things.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. I wanted your perspective from somebody who obviously like does a really good job of speaking to audiences, and so I was curious if you thought there was something that we were all people were missing potentially. So,
Yeah.
but moving on from you just as a content creator, you're crushing it in the Pro Tour this year. You've beaten the number one seed of Rob Nunnery and Eric Paliot down the APP. You and Krista Getcheva had a phenomenal win against Matt and Lucy a couple weeks ago in Kansas City, and you haven't even been playing that long. So,
Yeah.
like, this has got to be awesome for you to be moving from like content creator to like pro and content creator. Like,
Yeah.
how's all that going for you?
Yeah, it's cool. When I first started the Instagram newsletter accounts in 2021, the tagline that I wrote was "From never playing to pro in 12 months," and so that was always the goal. And I've said so for a long time. Like playing has always been, it still is, and has been my number one priority of like getting to play at the highest level I can. I just have so much fun doing it. Like I love to wake up and go hit dinks or drill. It's just that process is really fun to me. And then the content is not super far behind, but it has been for me in a lot of ways. And so it's cool to start to see some results. But I have been playing for 3 years, and to beat Matt and Lucy in a tournament, and then was just really special. Like that was a cool moment. It's a breakthrough moment in a lot of ways. Of like, hey, that's a big win that I haven't had before, and I've been working daily for 3 years. So that's really neat.
Yeah.
So as far as like what I spend a lot of time on it because I have a lot of fun doing it. I plan to do it for another 5 years. 5 or 10 years. I'm having a blast. I'm just trying to get as good as I possibly can and reach as high of a level as I can. I think like all of us are, because how good of a life is it to wake up and make videos and then go hit dinks and then do the same thing the next day? It's a pretty good life. So no complaints.
It sure as hell beats being an accountant, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Or a basketball coach or whatever the hell you said you were.
Well, I did love my other job for the.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I'm just messing with you.
I did love that, so don't disrespect. No, but yeah.
All right, we can unite around disrespecting accountants. How about that?
Yeah, but overall, it's good. I mean, you've been doing this for a long time. It's just like it's fun to try to figure out the puzzle of pickleball and like what works for you, what doesn't work for you, how do you actually win matches. But then to actually see results is cool, and everyone's doing it at a different pace. Like I remember just watching guys, and even still guys accelerate within 6 months, and they're like way better than me already. I'm like, shoot, I've been doing this for 3 years. But I also was shooting threes from deep for 20 years of my life. I wasn't hitting forehands from the baseline in tennis. So it's just a different timeline for everybody.
Sick flex, bro.
Yeah.
Sick flex. Hey, I made a three at that Orlando Squeeze event. Just saying.
You and Anna are great shooters.
Yeah. I played basketball through like fifth grade,
Yeah.
and then I'm like, I'm gonna be like 5'8" at best,
Yeah.
just like Chris Olsen's the 3'5" at best, and
Yeah.
I just knew unlike Chris, I knew that I should just abandon it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Good.
well, should we chat?
Yeah.
Should we chat some of the current events?
Yeah.
You recently published a video about it was called it was called 7 Reasons Your Serve Has No Power and How to Serve Harder. Do we need to issue any revisions to that now that we have a completely different set of service rules? And
No,
obviously, I'm being facetious because this applies only to pro pickleball players. But
yeah.
how many rules are you violating in that video? Current rules?
Um, I taught the whole video serving overhand, so probably a lot of them. Actually, maybe not. No, I think what I was thinking after I made that video was I saw some talk about if it would be illegal eventually to step into the court on your serve. And I was like, dang, I
Mhm.
hope that rule would be tough because that would hurt some of the videos that have been made in the past. But no, when I made that video too, I think I said something like very uh, what I don't know what the word is, but it's like I said, make sure you check your rule book with the league that you're playing in for how you have to toss the ball here, because I don't know what the rules are going to be when you watch this video, something like that.
Yeah,
So
good call.
yeah,
Look at that foresight.
so that was.
Meanwhile, I still have videos of the chainsaw up on my channel.
Well, I remember when Shay Underwood made a chainsaw video, I think on Instagram, and I think or maybe it was a YouTube video, and I think I don't. Yours might have done the same thing, but his just went like crazy viral, and everyone wanted to learn the chainsaw. You got to keep it on your channel, monetization. So
It's history.
yeah,
It's YouTube history.
yeah,
So what are your thoughts on that rule? So well, I guess I'll explain it here, but the PPA has been messing around with server rules. Basically, a quick history was at the beginning of this year, they created a provisional rule, which was in effect from January through mid-August or early August, which you had to release the ball from your hip height, and you could not toss it up, and then you still had to swing upwards at this serve. That got really, really difficult to enforce. It was basically unenforced, and then in the Kansas City tournament, it was completely unenforced. They reverted back to USA Pickleball rules, and that was the day of our mixed match, and I was
yeah.
like back to serving real high.
Your serve, I liked your serve at the time. I thought it was a great challenge for me to try to return it.
Yeah, so we had a couple of weeks under USAP rules from Kansas City through through Las Vegas. In Las Vegas, we obviously played, Declan and I obviously played that final. They implemented a new rule where it's a reserve if it's not 100% certain whether it's a fault or
Right.
100% certain whether it is a legal serve. And so we had the fiasco where there were like 10 or 12
Right.
different serves that were just reserves. And like, all right,
Yeah.
that's ridiculous. And then the next week is the Atlanta PPA, and on Monday they announced the following rules. The ball must be released downward from the waist area. A drop from the hand may not be tossed upwards, but can incur minimal and natural lift, up to one ball length. The swing on the serve must be underhand, around 45 degrees or less, and the paddle must clearly travel in a low to high direction. Serves where either the ball is tossed too high on the release or the swing was not clearly in a low to high motion will result in a service warning and reserve. Each player is allowed one service warning per match. Subsequent violations will result in a fault.
I think
Do you know what that
I think it's
means?
pretty clear and straightforward. No,
Ben, explain it to me. I'd love to know.
no. I remember I didn't play the beginning of the year because I was injured at the time, but I was watching, and then when I came back and started playing, they were still doing the like you have to have your hand on top of the ball. I do remember. I actually didn't think. I thought it was pretty clear on that. I thought you got to keep it here. I didn't think they just weren't enforcing it, is what I was hearing. Right, but it did.
Right.
It actually seemed like the clearest way. Like just drop it with your hand on top of the ball. Everybody seemed to like when I was watching earlier. Everyone seemed to be doing it fine, and there wasn't anything crazy. I mean, James was still serving hard as crap. Like even doing it that way. So that was one. What was it? Was that hard to enforce? Because you were playing at the time. That didn't feel like it was.
Yeah, in theory, no, but what started to happen was what you naturally do on a serve when you're trying to hit it the same way that or like hard, and I'm sure it's probably one of the 7 tips of your video. I didn't watch. I'm not a subscriber. No, I'm just kidding. I am a subscriber, but I didn't watch. You use your legs, right? You drive from your back leg through your front.
Yeah.
And so in order to do that, you got to get down low into a squatting position. And so what was happening was players were releasing the ball and they're moving their body around, and you really couldn't tell where the ball is actually being released. If you are exiting a squat, let's put my hand here. If you're exiting a squat while you're also releasing the ball, like this ball would be tossed upwards. And where the waist is really hard to tell when you're at an angle or when you've got a long shirt, whatever. So the issues there were telling whether the ball was actually released downwards
Yeah.
and whether it was actually at the waist.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
So
yeah, that makes sense. It is tough. I mean, I actually remember too, a long time ago, I was recording some footage and Deckel was serving and I recorded it in slow-mo and I watched it and like 4 out of 4 were legal. Like he figures out how to do it legally, but it kind of looks illegal. I think when
it looks very illegal until you really dive into it.
until you dive into it. And so like one of my thoughts too is because the refs are going to be looking so much at the toss, we should just put our feet all over that line and step in like 6 inches. They'll never see it. But
There we go.
you know that it's hard. The refs have a lot to look at. I honestly don't know the answer. You're smarter than me on that. I don't. You could just go to the drop serve, I guess, but I'm sure there's a way to manipulate that. But I will say, like bigger picture thought on serving in general. I mean, you had the best chainsaw serve. You're the one that created it originally, or did you get it from somebody else?
I didn't create the spin serve, but I created the chainsaw serve. Morgan Evans created the spin serve.
Yeah.
I popularized the chainsaw.
I mean, the spin serve was hard to do. I ended up never even learning how to do it. I like tried a couple times. I'm like, this is freaking hard. I'm not even going to spend time on this, right? And then eventually it got outlawed. But I don't know. We're like punishing only the best servers because still plenty of people with whatever rule are going to serve it really soft. I do that all the time. I get nervous and I just serve it soft. So at the end of the day, we end up just punishing the best servers to try to make it equal. And I'm fine with the chainsaw, the spin serve. I think it's creative. It's like the 3-point line. Like we're just I don't know, we're adding things to the game, and just because a lot of people started looking silly and people were like twisting their ankles, I'll default to your thoughts on it. I align with how you think about it.
Honestly, I'm kind of okay with any rule that's actually enforceable. And so right now, what my suggestions are, look, I made this tweet and I hate to say I told you so, but I said, when this first came out, I can't wait to see PPA referees attempt to enforce some of the vaguest wording most vague wording I've ever seen in a rule. We literally have words used in there, minimal and natural lift. What is natural lift is up to 1 ball length. I don't know how you're gonna. Maurice the Grease had a great tweet about that. He said, "I also use 1 ball length as a unit of measurement." But and then we actually have a defining. We have the swing on the serve must be underhand around 45 degrees. What is around 45 degrees?
Yeah,
that's wild to me.
If a ref is like, hey, that wasn't a minimal toss and that swing wasn't around 45 degrees, but then you're like, I'm gonna be honest with you, it was a minimal toss for me and it was around 45 degrees based on my mathematical assumptions. And so it's like,
then you just end up in that Spider-Man meme where you're all pointing at each other.
Yeah, it's just, the other thing with that the serve thing is the refs. It's so hard because you basically have to be locked in on that every single time. And if you're like, a lot of times you're not sure, so maybe Deckel got away with one that was a little high, and so but you didn't call it. And then on the next point, you're like, all right, I'm watching it, violation, but that one actually wasn't. It's like
a little makeup call action.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, it's
yeah. No. This is absolutely not the referee's fault. This is all they're attempting to enforce a rule that's been thrust upon them. Right. This is not their fault. They can't enforce it.
Where's the area of diminishing returns on serves? Like I actually haven't really
in terms of contact point.
The contact point. Like if I end up hitting the ball up here, I guess is that a lot better to hit it like up here versus like generating a whipping topspin motion? Because then you're not really generating as much topspin up here, I don't think, right?
So you can't really look at that in a complete vacuum. So currently, the way that MLP did it, they eliminated the contact height requirement, meaning you could make contact as high as you possibly can, but the top part of your paddle still has to be below the level of your wrist.
Okay.
So imagine trying to high five somebody with an inverted hand, right? So in MLP, diminishing return is 2 or 3 inches higher than the belly button. You can't serve legally much higher than that, legally and comfortably. Like I could do it, but I'm going to throw my shoulder and elbow out trying to hit this motion. So I actually think that MLP made a very smart rule in getting rid of that. It's one less thing for them for the referees to look at. Yeah. I do, because it doesn't increase our contact height very much. Yeah. Like it might increase it 2 or 3 inches. So I think that diminishing returns is 2 or 3 inches above the belly button. It's 2 or 3 inches above where Tyson and Deckel had been hitting it previously.
Yeah.
Actually, I don't know if Deckel could hit it any higher in MLP the way that he serves.
Yeah, it's not that big of a deal. I like that actually. Now hearing you say that, just keep your wrist below or your hand or whatever below the wrist.
Hmm.
There's only like 4 guys out there who are doing some severe damage with their serve. The rest of I feel like the rest of the field is just like
Hmm.
it hits it pretty hard, but not like crazy hard that they're getting like major errors consistently. I don't know.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, I just look, I think we have several different options. I agree. I would love to come to a rule that's enforceable. But this that we're going the opposite direction from that. We're becoming less enforceable. I'm all about enforceable. We have the drop serve, we have Major League Pickleball serves, which Major League Pickleball does have issues with determining whether you're swinging upwards and whether the top part of the wrist is
Yeah.
below the level of the paddle. Like those are still very much gray areas. So,
If you shoot a 3-pointer from behind the 3, but you release the ball before you hit the ground. So if I like run towards the 3-point line of basketball and I jump and I'm like at the free throw line, but I release it before I hit, like it's still a 3-pointer. I actually think that's my most
correct.
controversial take. We should be able to run in and jump as long as we make contact before we land. That's enforceable. Did he make contact before he landed, or did he not?
Okay. On the serve?
On the serve. Yeah, so you should be able to run in.
Interesting.
And if I was an Olympic athlete on the long jump, and I just happen to be able on these longer courts, like on center court somewhere, and I can just basically run in and be at the kitchen line. That's what I want.
Okay, there you go. Subscribe to Kyle's challenge. Subscribe to that pickleball guy to see your run serve.
That's the hook for this Instagram.
Yeah, there we go. Let's see. A couple other things here. We hit the serve. I challenged you guys last week to find an illegal serve from Deckel, and we did what I think find one.
Didn't Danny
I think
Jensen
we had.
post it too? Danny Jensen posted one.
I don't know if Danny did,
Okay.
but
You found another one?
it was a strange camera angle. Somebody tweeted at me, and so I conceded that to me this one serve from Deckel looked illegal. There were a lot of people who submitted that I disagreed with. There was one example that I thought was a good one, and would love to get Deckel's perspective on it. But yeah, thank you for everybody that participated in that.
Okay, so Proton pulled a fast one on me. They invited us and a bunch of other creators out to their headquarters in Phoenix, Arizona. I played with the Proton that day. That was maybe like 2 months ago, and I have not stopped playing with it since. So I've obviously tried a ton of paddles. The Proton, to me, it's just different. They say a lot about the durability, the fact that like Andre Deescu was using it for like 3 months in a row, which is unheard of, especially for pros who are changing their paddles like every day. But you just don't have to replace these things. The longevity, the grit, the structure of the paddle, it just holds up. They have crazy pop, insane control. So Proton seems to be one of those brands that came out of nowhere in the past year, and now they're one of the most popular paddles, selling out constantly. I just mentioned that Andre Deescu plays with them, but Caitlin Christian, Donald Young, Travis Rettenmeyer, CJ Klinger, the list goes on. All these pros are dominating the courts with paddles that leverage carbon fiber technology from baseball bats for exceptional sound and spin. Following the quick sellout of their Series 1, Proton's Series 2 paddles are now on the scene, claiming to be the softest on the market, providing top-notch control and great feel, winning a lot of medals at PPA events at the 3.0 and 4.0 level. Find Proton paddles exclusively through Pickleball Central. Use our code, THEDINK, to save $25 on your Proton paddle from pickleballcentral.com. That's all caps THEDINK for $25 off.
Well, anyway, so rumor has it, are you doing a new show with the Gingrich, Dayne Gingrich?
Yeah, we've been talking about it. We've been talking about it recently as well, and trying to figure out the timing of it. It's been pushed off a little bit just because of the launch of the pickleball school coming up, and trying to keep priorities in line. But yeah, we're talking about doing a podcast or something like that. I'm guessing in the next few months something will happen. But I enjoy just talking with him, and he loves the game, and I think we have good camaraderie as far as talking about pickleball. So something will probably appear in the next few months. Yeah.
Does he coach you?
He does. Yeah, I've actually gotten coaching from him for like probably the better part of the last, maybe a year, maybe 10 months. I reached out to him a long time ago. Okay. Yeah, he's been great. Yeah, I reached out to him about 10 months ago. I just believe in coaching so much. I grew up being coached in basketball, then coaching others, and there's not that many good coaches or coaches in general, especially for a pro player,
Mhm.
there's not that many people to reach out to. So like most of the guys in my group, we just got better together by talking on the phone for hours every night. Like, hey, should we drop or should we drive? What do you think? These type of conversations. But there's not a lot of people to give you a second set of eyes, and that's a really valuable thing. So I reached out to him a while ago, and then now we meet every single week, and usually twice a week, and go over game film and stuff from previous tournaments, and just talk through different things. And it's been really valuable. I mean, like I said, I love the process of that. It's fun for me. So like getting to watch or figure things out is a really fun thing, and that obviously helps with the content too, because I'm always just thinking about things for myself. And it, like you has probably figured this out as well, or do this as well with your stuff. But like you just think about something for yourself, and you realize, oh, that's actually really valuable at a 4.0 level too. Maybe articulated slightly different, or maybe just at a more basic level. But the principles that the pros use in their matches are the same principles that apply to the most beginner player. So like, yeah. So it's been a good thing with them.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's something that, a lot of people are reluctant coming into the sport to try and get coaching, whether it's an ego, like I don't need a coach for pickleball or what, but you do. Here's the thing. Like, no matter how analytical, or I think I'm as analytical and have as good of understanding of this game as anybody. And I have a coach. I work Sincola, and I work together. He gives me lessons with some. We haven't done it as much as I would have liked recently, just because of schedules. But like with some regularity, he gives me lessons, and like you don't always like a second set of eyes is so unbelievably valuable, and that's as somebody that knows the game at the most detailed and intricate level. And I also have a statistical background,
Yeah.
and I'm a numbers guy. Like I can look at my own game
Yeah.
and kind of remove my ego from it to see what I need to get better at, but I still need that second set of eyes. And so,
Yeah.
one of the biggest struggles is like people coming into this sport that have a little bit of an ego about it and think they don't need a coach for pickleball. But the absolute most valuable time to have a coach is going to be those first few times that you're playing. It's unbelievable how quickly you can learn bad habits in this sport.
Yeah. And then
Like, I
you have
do
to unlearn those things too, which is so hard.
exactly. And everything that you do, if you don't ever consciously try to unlearn something, it's stuck and getting ingrained with you every single time. Something that I see if we're talking coach to coach is like people who come in, they just naturally sit really heavily on the backhand for
Yeah.
whatever reason. And we can argue about 12 o'clock, 11 o'clock, 10:30, whatever. We all kind of know that the right ready position is a 9,
Yeah.
right? But and also not down low,
Yeah.
like I think, or not down too low.
Yeah.
But people come in and they do what might feel natural, because early on you do hit the majority of shots with your backhand, right? You might as well wait for your backhand. It kind of makes sense when you first start,
Yeah.
until you get that first person that you play against that can actually aim their shots,
Right.
and then you're kind of cooked, right? And then they aim everything over at your forehand.
Yeah.
So like the absolute best time to get your coaching is when you're climbing up the ranks, beginner 3.0, 3.5.
Yeah.
Then you work on more technical, more advanced stuff, and your cadence of coaching might be reduced.
Yeah.
But
Oh, it's so good. It made me think this. I was playing this morning with my buddy Zach Silvernail, who's a part of the pickleball school. He's one of the trainers, and
Mhm.
so he's another guy. Like, so Dayne and I meet every week, but Zach has actually started watching some of my film as well. And he was there when I first played pickleball ever. We've been close friends for 3 years. He's a really good player. And this morning we were playing, and I was realizing he was just like not hitting his fourths like with that much power. He was just kind of like they were driving at him, and he was just basically giving them an easy fifth. And I was like, Zach, just like give it a little more, And he's like, oh, I hadn't thought about that. It just like it had gone out of his mind for the last 2 sessions that we played. So for the rest of the session, after I mentioned it in the first 10 minutes, he starts just punching his fourths back to the baseline, and all of a sudden he's a completely different player, applying a completely different amount of pressure. And I think that's for Zach to me, and from Dayne to me, it's like, to your point, there's just so many blind spots in our own games that we don't see. And if you're not like watching your own film, or you're not having someone actually look at your play, you're just not going to get it as good as fast. And that's kind of the thing. It's like, well, how good do you want to get, and what timeline do you want to get there? And if the answer is really good immediately, you probably need some coaching or something. One other thing though, and I think it's worth mentioning that I've been talking with the team at Pickleball Vision, which I think you know a little bit about.
Yeah.
And,
Oh yeah, I love those guys.
And I'm really excited to I've been using that platform a little bit, which is sweet, because so many of the things that we're talking about are mostly anecdotal. Like, I'm pretty sure that the drive is better for me.
100%.
And
Right.
you're an analytical guy, so but like that platform is so cool because, and it's still being developed, but it gives you it's going to give you the facts. And so I know they're still developing it. And it's going to be coming out soon, but I'm really excited for that to like, I don't know, just get all of the facts that you can show amateurs to just prove things to them. You know, like, because it gives you it's AI, it gives you the information immediately, and so you're like, oh shoot, like our average rally in this match was 4.6. Maybe I don't need to work on my dinking next time I go to the courts. You know, like I haven't hit a
Yeah.
dink in a month because we just work on serves, returns, thirds, fourths, and fifths. You know, so there's just so
Mhm.
many different ways to get better. But yeah, that's
Exactly. I mean, something like I think PickleMart Analytics worked with Pickleball Vision, and they found that, what would you guess is the number one hit shot? What is the most common shot of serve, return, dinks, volleys, transition zone
in a full match. I would say a
in a
serve
full
because
match?
you're going to hit a serve every time.
So number one is dinks, just kitchen play dinking. That is the most commonly hit shot.
The most common
What's number two?
define that again. What do you mean by most?
Highest volume of shot hit in a
Oh,
given
highest volume of
match.
shot. Okay, okay, yeah,
hmm
dinks.
So
Um,
like, yes, serve, you're gonna hit one serve per
sure,
point,
sure.
right? So like, yes, there's a serve every point, and there might not be a dink every point, but
Yeah,
you might get 10 dinks in 1 point and throw off that
the
that
metric, yeah,
ratio.
yeah.
Mhm.
That's really interesting. So you said what's the second most common? Like would a speed up or would a speed up be actually that wouldn't be that common because it would probably end the point or a counter.
Mhm.
A reset is that defined as?
Kind of. Second most was anything from that transition zone,
Yeah,
that
okay.
transition zone area.
You
And
might
so
have
like that's something that is probably the least hit shot or practiced shot in pickleball. And it's the second most hit shot in matches, right?
yeah,
Which is wild. It's something that like anecdotally, like, all right, you should work on your thirds, you should work on your kitchen play. Yeah, you probably need to be competent in the transition zone, but like you would never think that in amateur play it's the second most commonly hit shot. But these guys are getting the numbers on it. So
interesting.
like, yeah, that stuff really, really excites me as well. And I think, we have Real Clear Stats, we have
Yeah,
Pickleball Vision, but what Pickleball Vision does, they're in two different lanes. Real Clear Stats is, summarizing some of the important stuff that happens. Winners, unforced errors,
yeah,
percentage of time getting to the kitchen. Like it is the statistics that we need. But then Pickleball Vision is actually going one step deeper and doing shot level data rather than summary level data, which means like, okay, when you hit your backhand dink to their backhand dink, you're winning that point 67% of the
right.
time. Whereas Real Clear Stats would say maybe just like when you're in a dink rally, you're winning 52%
Yeah,
of the time,
yeah,
right? And the more you drill into this stuff, the more questions you have.
yeah, for
So
sure.
it's just such an open-ended opportunity, and I love following along with the stuff that pbvision is doing as well.
Well,
So
this is the final thing on that. One of the it definitely it learning more stats will lead to more questions for sure. And I think the one thing that I'm excited about with getting more stats is informing what the most important skills are that you should spend time working on. Because
mhm.
like I just remember when I was first starting, I just would like work on my serves, returns, thirds, fourths, fifths, and then I would like go work on backhand off the bounce speed ups. But then I would realize like I'm not hitting those more than one time, or I suck at them, or whatever. And I'm realizing that I'm losing the matches because I hit short returns and they just banged on me the whole time, and I couldn't handle the. You know what I mean? So it's like that'll just be a really interesting thing, even at the pro level too. Like in basketball, if you look back to
For sure.
the Houston Rockets, I
Oh,
think we're the first team that really dove into analytics in the entire game. There's a great book on this. Gosh, I'm trying. It's a basketball book. I'm forgetting the name of it, but the guy basically took all the analytics from like the 1970s and he compared them to I don't know, maybe 2013 or 14. And so when the 3 point line was introduced in basketball, he showed just the way the game slowly changed, and he had shot charts inside of it. And so by 2014 or something, the only shots, primarily 80+%, that were being taken were layups and threes. And so the game
yep.
changed because they were just like, oh my gosh, well a 3 pointer is worth 1.5 as much as a two. And so like if we just shoot more threes and we get layups and we don't shoot this fadeaway 15-footer that's only worth the same as a layup, like we're going to change how we play. And then it started to
Mhm.
trickle down, to the lower levels. And now kids are like, okay, we're only going to work on like shooting threes and making layups. And it's just a fully different game because they eventually got deep into the analytics and everything changed. And so like knowing the analytics doesn't change things tomorrow, but like in 5 years it changes things a lot. And I think that's one of the things that the evolution of the game we're talking about. Once we start to really understand the numbers, people will train differently because they'll understand what actually wins and what doesn't. And people want to win. It's more fun when you win, so they're going to do the things that win.
For
visual.
sure.
Yeah.
No offense to you or me, but like something like Pickleball Vision is going to be the best coach going forward. But they do still need, I think, an actual coach like you and me to interpret the numbers, right?
Yeah.
And understand them, right? Something as simple as, there's so many questions on what the meta is and what like even with something as attacking, like are we attacking too much? Are we
Yeah.
attacking too little
Yeah.
statistically, right? And nobody knows the answer to that question.
Yeah.
Is the game trending faster? Like clearly we are hitting more speed ups, I think, than we have before, but are we correct to do that?
Yeah.
And are there other downstream effects from being aggressive?
And if the paddles, like let's say the paddles change and they go back to being slower, then like how does that
Hmm.
affect the quantity of speed ups being taken right now? Because like obviously it's hard to
Hmm.
counter a speed up that's hit so hard, and like when you're swinging as hard as you possibly can at people's chests, it's like it's not that easy to counter that ball. So
Hmm. Yeah, for sure.
yeah,
Well, speaking about coaching, and we'll roll this into the next section, but tell me about your new launch of That Pickleball School. So it's
yeah,
going out October 1st, I believe,
yeah.
and it goes. You're already doing in-person clinics, but now this is. Tell us a little bit more about it.
Yeah, yeah, it's thanks for asking about it. I think about the game like I think you guys that you do and other obsessed people like 23 hours of the day, even when I'm sleeping. And so I think one of the things that led to the inception of that pickleball school, which is going to come out October 1st, was helping people get unstuck in their game, whatever that is, like trying to get to the next level from 3.5 to 4.0, raise their DUPR, win their league, or get invited to the game of the better players in their group, but they don't know like what do I need to do to get into that game. And I think everybody, from the lowest level player to the highest level player, has challenges they're trying to overcome. And so as I was thinking about like what's the next phase of the content that I'm making, it was creating something that is more structured that could help people actually overcome those challenges in a more structured, more maybe simplistic, more personalized way than just doing social media content. And so eventually that they could go on court, be confident, win more, all those things. And so very specifically, that pickleball school it's going to be an online platform that has three things in it. The first thing is on-demand videos that probably 90% of what's going to be in there on October 1st is brand new content that I've filmed over the last 4 months with really good visuals. I have the best editors, and these guys spend an absurd amount of time making clear graphics that help explain things well. And then the second part of it is there's a community feature inside the platform. So imagine like a Facebook community, except without all the weird stuff in Facebook. And so you go in there and you can ask questions and you can get help from other people. And which I do think is really valuable as well from a teaching perspective. Like it's helpful to get advice from somebody 5 steps ahead of you, but it is also helpful to get advice from somebody 1 step ahead of you because they just experienced the thing you experienced or just struggled with the thing you just struggled with. And so this community feature that will be inside of it will be a way for a bunch of like-minded people to get together, ask questions, engage together, and ultimately learn alongside each other. And then the third thing is just access to my team and me in a more efficient way. You probably get these. I think a lot of the pros do. I get a lot of DMs with questions all the time. I get a lot of emails from my newsletter with questions about a million things: how to get better, what shot should I hit, am I doing this wrong, strategy, IQ,
Hmm.
how do I watch film, all these different things. And so inside of the community, I'm going to spend a lot more of my time just in there answering questions and giving feedback and giving
Yeah.
everything to everybody who's in there. And so that's where I'm going to shift over a little bit of attention. And so it's really those three things of on-demand videos, this community feature, and then more access to just personalize help in a more timely manner.
Yeah. No, I love that because look, am pretty skeptical of just videos behind a paywall. I think in today's day and age, like nobody wants that.
Yeah,
Like, so, a video, just having a video and having people pay for it to access it, nobody's using that anymore. You can get good content on YouTube if you actually have somebody who can tell you what's what. You can also get really bad content on YouTube.
yeah,
So the community feature and the ability to interact with coaches and have conversations with them to make sure that you're applying this video correctly
yeah,
is the most important thing. And then also, what do we pay for college for, right? It's the same idea.
yeah,
It's the organization and presentation of material. I could learn everything I needed to know about accounting from Google or going to the library or whatever. Why did I go to school? Because they organize it in a way that has a curriculum, and you know that the stuff that you're learning is actually organized in a good way, sequential, and it's going to be applicable.
yeah,
So I think,
yeah,
you know, I think videos behind a paywall I think that model is dead, but having like-minded people that you can, talk about stuff with, and then also really the ability to interact with these coaches is, I think, awesome. I think that's
Yeah.
phenomenal.
Yeah. The thing, I think you nailed it too. I think like, and I'm going to continue to do YouTube videos and social media content. But it's definitely, there's not a lack of information on YouTube. I think you
Hmm.
nailed it. It's a lack of structure. And like, if you go to
Hmm.
YouTube and you go to my channel right now, there might be a video that is not at the level that you are looking for right now. Like, I'm looking for a beginner video, but I just learned about stacking, and that's probably a little too confusing for me right now. And
Hmm.
so that's the approach we're taking, is trying to give a more step-by-step approach to what you should actually work on in what order, so you get better faster. And I mean,
Hmm.
everybody who's hooked on this game is trying to get better faster so they can enjoy the benefits of it. Right? You get into the better group, you enjoy getting better partners, you win more. Winning is fun. And the other thing that's going to be cool about this is like, what the content that's in there on October 1st is not. It's going to grow and evolve over time, and it's going to be informed by what the people in the community are asking for the most. It's like, hey, and also there's going to be some, on December 15th, I'm going to launch like a Road to 5.0 more advanced concepts in there. And that's going to be in there as well. But as this thing goes on for the next, and I tend to do it for years, so as it goes on for the next 12 months to 5 years, it's going to be, like I said, informed by what people are asking for, and also just more like, what else am I learning? I'm going to be very involved with pickleball vision. So like, as I learn more data and like understand as the game evolves, we're going to update what the content is inside of it, and then there's going to be a lot of discussion, obviously, on how that should inform how we might play. But I don't know everything. Like, I know you don't think you know everything. There's a million. Like, every time I talk to somebody new, there's a different articulation for a certain thing. I think that's why like you working with Sincola is very interesting, because I'm sure
Hmm.
Sincola has just said things to you in a way that's like, oh shoot, I haven't thought about it quite like that. And then that belief or that philosophical change might change like many parts of your game just by him commenting on one thing, which I've experienced a ton. Like, at this point in my game, like, it really hasn't been as much. Like, I'm trying to work on my two-handed off the bounce backhand right now, which is
Hmm.
atrocious, but it's coming.
That shot that you hit once per game,
Yeah,
right?
once per game. Yeah. I'm not spending a majority of my time working on it, but I am adding it in. But that's not the thing that's going to help my game the most. Usually for me right
Hmm.
now, it's some type of different belief. I think about like, what is my style? Like, who am I as a player? And like, what are the things that will have the greatest impact on the game? And that's where I'm spending a majority of my time. And I think that's what we're going to try to help people do, is just like put their time in the right place, give them videos to help them accomplish those things, then teach them how to go apply it on court so they actually get better.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you, what's your most controversial coaching stance, right?
Oh
Like,
yeah.
dinking is obsolete, or, just get your serve in. It's not worth it to go after, or, speed ups. What do you think? What's your most controversial take in pickleball coaching? And it doesn't even have to be something that you've made a video about. It can be your own personal beliefs.
Yeah.
It can be beliefs about where the game might be going, trajectory. What you got for us?
I'm not fully bought into yet the game. Like, long term, the game will be like all attacks from everywhere all the time. Which, like Dane and I were talking about this the other day. He believes that it's like the game, like, they're going to be speeding up things from their feet all the time, and obviously that's happening right now with the paddles. I I don't even think that, I don't know if that's controversial, but and maybe it's because I like a slower game, so I'm actually hoping someone that doesn't go that way, because like I feel like that benefits tennis players more than it benefits me. Um, I think it's like a JW and Dylan, a little slower game where they counter because they have good hands first, is still going to be a winning strategy long term, because a player who attacks from everywhere all the time, I don't know, the numbers will tell for sure. Like, maybe that does work, but that's like something I've been thinking a ton about recently, even my own game. Like, should I speed up way more, or should I just keep it really slow? Because like Tanner and I, we got fourth of this APP, Tanner Tomasi, and we sped up like 8 balls off the bounce in like 6 matches. And it
Mm.
was like, oh, that's very
So you were
interesting.
grinding.
We grinded, yeah, and but like at the same time, like, guys just got worn down at the end of game three and just started missing dinks, and I was like, well, that's valuable. So that's informed my thoughts a little bit on it. But no, I don't think I don't have any thoughts. Like, I believe you should serve huge. I think you should. Yeah, I think returning is a big thing. Like, just trying to get the ball in the back third. I'm trying to think of anything else. What's your controversy? I know you probably have 5 or 6 off the top of your head.
My most controversial one is that every pro pickleball player is going to be tomahawking or hitting the backhand forehand when this is a essentially solved game. When we get to a point where players have really maximized every shot, I think that players are going to be hitting the backhand forehand. And you're now the king of the tomahawk shot. We played that match over in Kansas City, and I shanked a few completely miserably,
Yeah,
and you hit like 3 or 4 winners hitting
I
that
know.
shot.
Well, I
So
think
I'd say
you did 4 or 5 out. It was really nice of you to hit those out. Let's
it was
have
an
a
off
fun
day
story
for the
though.
tomahawk.
Yeah, for the people listening though, let's like Zane and I played in the second round of the Kansas City tournament, and I was warming up with Krista on these courts, and it was I genuinely didn't know you were standing right there. And so when you were standing next to us, and I'm like, Krista, like, let me hit you a couple 2-handed backhands. Zane's gonna attack you like this, and Krista's over here like doing this thing, like, hey, Zane's right there, and I didn't know what she was doing. I was like, just prepare for the counter. And then I don't know. You heard me. What did you think when I was saying that? By the way, I don't think I ever talked to you about it.
I actually didn't. I didn't know exactly what you were talking about. Maybe I wasn't really paying attention.
Okay. Yeah. Well, so
But then we had some sort of conversation. I think you hit like a
well,
tomahawk,
then I was like,
after.
I made a joke and I was like, oh, like Zane's gonna do this, right, or something like that. And then just because we talked about it, I remember then the match started, and I think in game one I hit a tomahawk on you, which I haven't hit in like 4 weeks, and now I've been doing it all the time again since that moment. So you basically re-sparked my tomahawk abilities without in the game.
That's where I came into that conversation too. Like I think that's where I saw
Okay.
you said like Zane's gonna do this.
Yeah.
So
I like
didn't
this
know.
shot.
I didn't know you guys were talking about me.
No, we said some other things too, but yeah, no, yeah,
I can only imagine.
yeah, that's not even. I don't even think that's a controversial take. It's just I like
It is apparently. People like to argue with me on that, and I love to argue, so it's great. But I think my main reasoning is that when your hand is in front of your paddle, right, you're not going to have as much reach if you turn it over and your hand is behind the paddle. So if nothing else, the
Yeah.
tomahawk or the reverse forehand gives you 3, 4, 5 inches of extra reach,
Yeah.
and yeah, those
Okay, I have one
every
other-
inch matters, Kyle.
That's right. And speaking of every inch, Anna Bright. But I saw her make a post the other day. I saw her make a post, and I've been thinking about the same thing for a while. She said something like something that shows the evolution of the game is that how many ATPs come back. And about a month ago, I've gotten good at defending ATP, or like relative. I think a lot of players have. It's not the craziest thing to reset an ATP, but I've actually was thinking the other day, like to start hitting wide dinks in order to bait them into ATPs, and
Yep.
just because like once they're in an ATP, they usually think like psychologically like, oh, this point's over, and then the other player is going to come cover in the middle, and you have all this space open on the other side. So it's almost like let's bait some ATPs, but in a very specific way. And I don't actually know what way that is yet. Like it needs to be, I don't know, it needs to be a ball that they need to hit up on a little more. So it can't be like the dink needs to be kind of low, I think. Or I don't know, actually, maybe then it would skid. But the point is that you hit a wide dink and then you get them out of position, then you take advantage of their positional disadvantage. And I think that's an interesting thing that maybe at some point will come, but it happens all the time. We just don't usually set it up,
Yeah, so like offensively setting up around the posts for your opponent to draw them, basically create a 2-on-1 situation.
Basically create a 2-on-1
So the risk
situation.
is,
And I
so
think-
basically like
Yeah, go ahead.
I've been doing this once a game, maybe.
Yeah.
Just so it accomplishes two different things, right? So I typically do it when I have a dead dink that's relatively wide on either the backhand side, on near the sideline, or the forehand side.
Hmm.
And naturally, when you have that shot, the diagonal player is going to start crashing towards the middle.
Right.
And so if you hit a really aggressive cross-court dink, you understand, yes, they're going to get there probably, and they're going to be able to hit an ATP. But are they going to be able to hit a good enough ATP?
Yeah.
So it accomplishes two things. A, you might be 55% favored to actually win that point, but it's not even necessarily about that point where you gave them the ATP. It's about every other point where you have that same situation where they're slightly more hesitant to crash and cover that middle, right? So it's a weird, and I think that's actually somewhere that this game is going. This game is going to have more and more game theory as we continue to figure it out.
Yeah. Well, do you think it would be more? Let's say you're playing two righties, and do you think it'd be more beneficial to which player should hit the ATP to maximize your advantage? Should it be the player hitting the ATP with their backhand, the left side player? So then you have a backhand ATP and a backhand middle coverage, or do you think you should do it on the right side so you could cross it back over to the left side player's backhand, so their attack might be slightly weaker, or their counter might be slightly weaker?
I would say generally forehand ATPs are struck harder or more aggressively, or at least more scary.
Yeah.
Like I feel like the forehand ATP is going to end the point
higher percentage
more times than the backhand ATP, right? Like guys get a forehand ATP, and there some players are just slapping it, and like the point's over, win or lose, it's over, right? They're just gonna hit it hard. The backhand ATP is unless you're, giving it over to Connor Garnett,
Yeah,
most
yeah,
people aren't slapping it the same way. And so I would say, you know, I think that giving it to there's less risk giving it to
backhand.
the left side player that's going to be hitting their backhand over there.
Yeah. Okay, I like that. I'm gonna start messing around with that a little more. But your partner needs to be on the same. Like, if your partner's not good
Yeah,
at,
your partner has to be on the same page.
like,
Yeah, and
yeah,
you got to set them up well enough where the person is really what I see as the key there is if you're going to give up an ATP, you have to make sure that the player hitting it is not only moving sideways, but also moving backwards.
yeah,
If they're angling
yeah,
backwards to get to the ATP, they're not going to be able to hit it quite as hard. And then also they're going to be off the line for when you're playing 2-on-1.
yeah,
So if I try to give it only when I can make the person move backwards and
yeah.
sideways to hit this ATP.
That's good. Yeah. If it's too far back, or not too far, but if it's backward enough, then you can pull out that
The
Yates
Ernie.
The Ernie
Yeah,
ATP.
yeah,
Pablo did
exactly.
it. Pablo did it in Utah. I saw it live. And it was so good. He was so casual about it. That was perfect.
That's a badass shot.
Yeah.
That is an unbelievably badass shot.
Yeah.
All right, let's
I'm
do you good for a couple minutes of guess my duper?
All right, we got
Perfect.
four
I forgot
here,
about it. All right. He likes it. Is that Christian Alshon? Oh, foot fault.
Oh. But he loves that shot.
All right, Kyle. Guess that duper.
No, that guy is pretty solid. I mean, that's a 4.9 to 5.1 range.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's actually my buddy Amin from the Orlando Squeeze. So, my thoughts here is he plays only for show. He's got a bunch of tweeners. I would love to see a low light reel of those tweeners. Those are the 3 tweeners that he's actually made over the last calendar year. Um, so I'm gonna go, knowing Amin, knowing I've actually seen his game and been on the court, he's about a 3-0.
Okay, nice. Wow.
Ah.
Gosh, I was right on.
Yeah, you were solid. You had a solid guess.
I mean, I saw that Ernie technique where he went. Yeah, that's why that's where I knew.
It was a football, but yeah, yeah.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
Is he following your 7 tips?
Big time.
Ooh, he got some lucky wind on that one. All right, Kyle, do the honors.
Yeah, that's a 4. That's between a 4.5 and a 4.7. Pretty close. He's reaching. He wants to be 5.0, but he's got a few things to work on footwork wise.
Ooh, based on my past experience, I think he's like a 4 or 5, but I've been way over with basically everybody that I've guessed. So I bet you they've got him at like a 4.1. Oh, Jesus.
Wow. Well, but that's only because he hasn't played enough events.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's fair.
he's definitely a 3.3 at least.
At least a 3-3. Like that guy's 100% better than Chris Olsen.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, it's not even. I mean, what's understood doesn't need to be explained.
Sorry Nathaniel. Justice for Nathaniel.
Short hopping returns. It's a nice court.
Ooh. Oh, that's a big overhead.
Oh, whoa. Oh. Oh. Yeah, come on.
Ooh, an inside out Ernie over there. That's a difficult shot.
He's been watching some Thomas Wilson.
Do the honors.
Yeah, yeah, it depends how many tournaments he plays, but that guy's better than the first guy. So I'm putting this guy at like a
You
5.
hear that, Amin?
Yeah. Not at tweeners though. It means better at tweeners. 5-3.
Yeah, I'm gonna go 5-2. And also just it looks like a good 5-5 game, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like that looks like some good pickle.
Well, okay, he just doesn't play tournaments. Like,
I rage quit this game, man.
I mean,
I rage quit this game.
I mean, that's kind of like he played one DUPR sanctioned event, and then he decided he's going to just go all in on training, and now he's posting this video here right now. Come on, John.
Unbelievable. I hate this segment. All right, well, if you guys want me to overestimate your duper next week, submit your clips, follow the instructions in the description or whatever. I don't know. The people will do that. Submit your clips. It'll be fun. I'll give you a better rating than you actually have. Last thing, we have Pickleball Hall of Fame. So this year we had Simone Jardim, Kyle Yates, and John Gullo inducted into the Pickleball Hall of Fame, or will be inducted. What do you think of Pickleball Hall of Fame? And, who do you have any controversial takes of who will eventually be in this?
Yeah, I think that's a cool idea. Number one, I actually don't know much about it. I'm not sure. I don't know what the requirements are to get in. I don't know how long it's been going on.
Neither do I. I don't know much about it either, but
I think it's. I think all the sports have the Hall of Fame. Do I have any controversial takes about who should be in it? Gosh, Chris Olsen could down the road, just if someone
the world's the best ever 3-5.
Yeah, nobody ever was that good for that long and didn't raise up their game to another level. That'd be one. I don't have any controversial takes on it. I think
he's gonna found the 3-5 Hall of Fame. I think. Like it's gonna be like a how many days can you possibly spend at the 3-5 level without getting any better type of Hall of Fame.
I texted Chris yesterday. I said, "What are you struggling with right now in your game?" And he texted me a few things. And I said, "What are you doing to work on them?" And he's like, "I'm trying this and this." I'm like, "How's it work?" He goes, "Not much." He goes, "What do you think I should do?" So I sent him a link to thatpickleballschool.com.
Love it. And he's your first sign up for the he was on pre-order.
Yeah.
He pre-ordered. I actually think, John Gullo, and I hope I'm not pronouncing that name wrong. I probably am, but from what I understand, he was one of the first people who was just organizing a ton of tournaments and organizing in general. And so I think trailblazers in different parts of pickleball are going to be important. I actually really do think people like you, Connor Hans, Chris Olsen, the content creators that are getting more eyeballs currently than PPA, MLP, APP, we might be looking back at this 10 years from now and realize that you guys are the ones that really popularized this sport, right? There's a very interesting argument to be made that you guys could be in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah. If I was ever in the Hall of Fame, I would love for it to be for playing achievements. But yeah, it'd be cool regardless.
All right, you heard it here. Kyle said, I have zero interest at all in being in the Hall of Fame unless it's for my playing abilities.
Yeah,
Perfect. Well,
cool.
yeah, you, Simone Jardim, Kyle Yates, Ben Johns, just the goats of the sport. Goats only.
Kyle was my first ever pro match was against Kyle at Atlanta on center court, 8 a.m. and lost 11-0, 11-0. It took 5 or 6 minutes.
Nice.
End of story.
Hey, you lasted 5 or 6 minutes on the court. That's great.
Yeah.
Phenomenal.
Yeah.
Good for you, dude. No, Kyle was a beast in his time.
Yeah, no, he's good.
Just shout out to people named Kyle in general. Kyle Solinko.
Yeah.
Great dude. Close call replay. Atlanta this week. That's awesome.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, Kyle, that pickleball guy, Mr. Pickleball guy, thanks for popping on. Thanks for doing the pod. And guys, make sure to check out That Pickleball Guy, That Pickleball School, Kyle Kazuda, Pickleball Vision, all that stuff. And yeah, that's the Pickle Pod.
Yeah. I'm not gonna lie,